The short answer is yes. The long answer is I look like absolute shit. And the reason for that is I A haven't showered yet, and B literally woke up like an hour ago because I have to go work after I shower. Also, I just realized that this lighting and angle makes it look like I have an Adam's apple, so fuck you. I'm more valid than I've ever been in my life. Okay, anyway. Anyway, back on track. So, I identify in the most basic terms as a dude. I am also trans, but I identify as a dude, and the trans is just part of that because I wasn't assigned dude at birth, so clearly I'm trans. That's how it works. Because essentially, being trans is whatever you were assigned at birth, be it male, female, or intersex or whatever, you don't identify as that. You aren't that. And for me, I was assigned fabulous at birth. I was assigned female at birth, but I identify as masculine. I have a hard time identifying as simply male or man because there's a lot of toxic masculinity that I'm still working through. I do have some really rad male role models in my life, and also my brother, who's great and fantastic and has shown up in videos, and he's a good ally. So basically, I would consider myself, like, if toxic masculinity wasn't an issue, and if there wasn't such a pressure to be hyper masculine for trans people of the male persuasion, if that didn't exist, I would 100% consider myself a binary trans person, or binary trans guy. But because of all that, I don't always consider myself that. Usually when I'm talking to cis people, I'm like, yeah, I'm a trans man. Because they're not going to understand the little fancy boys that are involved with being like, I don't know if I can be the kind of guy that's expected for guys to be, and all of that fun stuff. So usually I'm just like, yeah, I'm a man, because they're not going to get the details of it. But I have identified as non-binary in the past. I am cool with being referred to with they, them pronouns. Sometimes I wear makeup. Usually it's for emo night or when I'm doing costumes or cosplay or whatever. Sometimes I just wear it for fun. So I do explore femininity a lot of times, and I am cool with being referred to as a non-binary man or whatever, but my identity definitely rests squarely on the man side of the board. And so I'm going to answer the question, are non-binary trans? Are non-binary trans? Are non-binary people trans? I can't speak. And, I mean, again, like I said, short answer, yes. Long answer is, of course, because non-binary people don't identify with the gender they were assigned at birth, which is literally what it means to be trans. So, not every non-binary person is going to also consider themselves trans, but they do fall under the transgender umbrella, because the term transgender essentially means across gender, because the prefix trans means across, like transcontinental is across continent. So, like, if we're going grammatically, then yes, they are trans. If we're going, like, systematically or community-wise, yes, they're still also trans. They don't have to label themselves as trans. Like, I know plenty of non-binary people who are like, I'm non-binary. I mean, they're like, I guess I'd fall under the T in LGBT, but their identity is non-binary, not trans. Like, they are trans in the sense that they don't identify as the gender they were assigned at birth. But if someone asked them, so are you, like, transgender? Like, how would you describe yourself? They'd be like, I'm non-binary, or I am genderqueer, or I'm gender fluid, or whatever terminology they use. I'm not gonna try and police that because it's none of my business. But I think a lot of binary cis people, a lot of binary trans people, please remember what you're talking about. A lot of binary trans people have issues with non-binary people. And I think that's because there's a lot of misrepresentation of what it means to be non-binary. A lot of times it's the, oh, I'm so special, look at me and my fancy gender and pronouns, and like literally gender's a spectrum. A lot of people, like a lot of trans people, use superfluous words to just like express their gender. Like jokingly I'll be like, my gender is dad, my gender is the feeling when you get home from work and you just want to curl up in a ball and die. Like, that's not actually my gender, that's just me being a little shit. But sometimes that's not always understood. And for a lot of non-binary people, because we have a very binary language, it's hard for them to have words that describe who and what they are, so they have to make something up, and then they sound like special snowflakes, and that was supposed to be in quotations, but one of my hands is holding my camera, and the other hand is messing around with my ring, because I'm a fidgety bitch. So, labels are hard to come by, and so non-binary people have to make them up themselves, essentially. And then, because non-binary people are under the trans umbrella, sometimes they'll go on hormones, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll chop their hair off, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll do binary trans things, and sometimes they won't. I knew a non-binary person who, if you didn't know they were non-binary, you would assume that they were a butch lesbian. I think they actually do identify as butch because they are a lesbian, but I meant like cis butch lesbian, or like binary butch lesbian, I don't know. Again, don't know what the fuck I'm talking about when it comes to lesbian terms, not when it comes to this. I'm doing my best. I'm fucking tired. So, they present themselves as rather masculine, but sometimes they present themselves as not as masculine, but they're still non-binary, and they still aren't a girl, and they still aren't a guy. And yes, they have a more masculine name, but that doesn't, like, mean they're one or the other. Like, it's a fucking spectrum. Oh, fuck. I dropped my ring. It's fine. So I'm gonna TLDR this because I do need to actually shower and go to work and pick up my ring off the floor before I forgot that I dropped it. But the TLDR is, non-binary people are trans. They don't have to personally call themselves trans or identify with that label, but they are trans because, you know, they don't identify as the gender they were assigned at birth. If you have an issue with non-binary people existing, that's your own issue to deal with, and eat a dick.